You've probably heard the headlines. India's economy is a global powerhouse, a real beacon of stability in a pretty turbulent world. But there's a fascinating disconnect happening. While all the big, high-level numbers look incredibly strong, the reality on the ground for a lot of people tells a very different, more complicated story. So how is that even possible? How can an economy be booming while so many of its citizens feel like they're struggling to get by? Let's get into it.
I mean, you really can't get a clearer, more confident statement than this. This isn't just some off-the-cuff remark. This is the head of India's central bank basically saying the country's economic report card is getting straight A's. It's a statement of absolute confidence, and it's backed by some seriously impressive data.
And that's the real question, isn't it? What does a stable financial matrix actually mean for you, for me, for the everyday person? Well, this is where the plot really thickens, because when we zoom in from that 30,000-foot view down to street level, the picture gets way, way more complex.
All right, so to really wrap our heads around this puzzle, we have to start where the officials do, with the big picture financial health check. And you know what? On paper, the system looks incredibly strong.
Okay, so what does all this financial jargon actually mean? Well, think of it this way. Strengthening balance sheets and strong capital buffers, that's basically saying the country's banks have been hitting the gym. They are muscular, well-funded, and can handle some serious punches. The whole system is designed to be resilient, to absorb major shocks, and it's all fueled by us, by Indians buying goods and services.
And this is the headline that grabs everyone's attention around the globe. It's not just that the economy is stable, it's growing at a pace that's leaving every other major economy in the dust. By all official accounts, the foundation is solid as a rock.
Which, of course, brings us right back to that central tension. If the engine is running this smoothly, why are so many passengers in the back feeling every single bump in the road? To figure that out, we need to zoom in a bit, from the big picture to what's happening at the national level.
And it's here that we run into a genuine economic mystery. A classic rule of economics seems to have been completely shattered. It's this really confusing dance between the prices we all pay and the jobs that we have.
So, for decades, economists have sworn by this idea called the Phillips curve. It's pretty simple, really. The theory goes, when lots of people have jobs, they spend more money, which pushes prices up. That's inflation. And if you want to bring prices down, you usually have to cool the economy down, which can mean job losses. They're supposed to move in opposite directions, just like a seesaw.
But just take a look at this. In post-pandemic India, that seesaw is completely broken. On the left, you see inflation taking a nosedive from its peak in 2022. Now, look to the right. What's unemployment doing? It's also falling. They are both going down at the same time. This just isn't supposed to happen.
And it's not just a fluke. The data is pretty clear on this one. Research shows that the link, that reliable trade-off that policymakers have counted on for decades between inflation and unemployment in India, is just gone. The connection isn't statistically significant, which means it might as well be random.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It means that even though the RBI has been really successful in getting inflation under control, that success hasn't automatically created a strong, stable job market for everybody. The recovery is patchy, and it's especially fragile in rural and informal parts of the economy.
Okay, so we've looked at the national picture. Now let's zoom in even further, right down to the engines of India's growth, the big cities. And here we find another totally fascinating paradox.
I mean, think about it. These massive cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, they are absolute magnets for talent and for capital. They are the glittering hubs of tech, finance, and innovation, and they generate a huge chunk of the country's economic output. In short, they're where the money is.
But are they where the good life is? This table tells a staggering story. In a smaller city, somewhere like Nashik, 1 month's salary covers about 1.6 months of your expenses. That's a pretty healthy ratio. Now look at Mumbai. That number is a jaw-dropping 0.31. That means a full month of hard work doesn't even pay for a third of your monthly bills. That's just wild.
And this strange reality actually has a name. Researchers are calling it the digital cost paradox. It's this bizarre situation where India's most modern, most productive, most technologically advanced cities are also becoming the most financially crushing places to live for the very people who make them run.
And what's really interesting is that it's not just about having tech. This heat map reveals something really cool. Just having simple internet access doesn't really move the needle on affordability anymore. What does make a difference is how well the city uses tech to deliver services, things like e-government efficiency. It's a powerful reminder
that it's the quality of digital life, not just the quantity of connections, that really matters.
So we've got a stable macro system, a confusing national jobs picture, and an affordability crisis brewing in our biggest cities. All right, let's connect these dots and see what the full picture looks like.
What really emerges from all this is a picture of two parallel Indian economies existing at the same time. On one side, you have the macro story of stability, growth, and resilience. That's the one policymakers and global investors are looking at. And on the other side, you have the micro reality of uneven job growth and a daily struggle for affordability. That's the one millions of citizens are actually living.
So what are the big takeaways here? Well, first, a strong economy is the starting line, not the finish line. It's the foundation, but it doesn't automatically mean everyone is prosperous. Second, a city's huge GDP doesn't guarantee a good salary for the people who live there. And finally, even though headline inflation is down, the rising cost of living is still eating away at people's paychecks, especially for those in the rural and informal economies.
Okay, so understanding the problem is one thing, but what does the research say about the path forward? How do we start to bridge this massive gap?
The data really points to a smarter, more targeted game plan. It's about moving beyond just fighting inflation and actually focusing on creating jobs where they're needed most. It's about taking the pressure off the megacities by investing in and building up the next wave of Tier 2 cities. And it's about making sure that all this smart city money actually leads to a life that's more affordable and better for real people.
When you boil it all down, the goal is actually pretty simple. It's about making sure that the admirable stability of the financial system is actually felt in the stability of a family's own budget.
And what's so important to remember is that this isn't an either-or situation. A truly successful economy doesn't have to pick one over the other. The real challenge and the opportunity is to achieve both at the same time.
And that really leaves us with the defining question for the next chapter of India's incredible growth story. As this economic engine continues to power forward, how do we make sure that every single passenger, no matter where they're sitting, gets to enjoy a much smoother ride?